He's on camera tonight.
I got caught eating ice cream, and that's how you got me on camera. You
Huh?
know, I got caught eating some ice cream. If I wasn't eating this ice cream, you know,
We
let's see.
not at work.
That's me. Let's see.
So you can eat ice cream. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that appreciate that. Cause guess what? You got ice cream. I got a smoothie.
Hold up.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have to keep our palate nice
Hmm?
and accommodated, right?
Mm-hmm. Hey.
These are non-adult beverages. This is just nourishment. Just nourishment, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's going on, my man?
You know, man. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm doing well, bro.
You back at home base?
Oh yeah. I'm back out after doing some traveling, trying to land some contracts in different places. You know,
I hear that's cool, man.
trying to make moves for generations and generations to come. You know,
Yo, guess where I finally went today?
IHOP.
Maybe this is
IHOP.
this is a conversation for another time, but it's always relevant. I went to the site of the new Black Wall Street.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
It was awesome to see it live. Very, um, a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, people leveling up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that there's a handful of, if not a bunch of corporate trauma stories in there that kind of push people into what they're doing. Saw a little bit of everything. So that's what I did. Obviously, we're commemorating our first Black History Month on our podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this was a good field trip for me today. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate what I saw, man. We
Nice.
yeah, we trying to level up, man. When you get into those environments, right? You see and you feel, and then those ideas start popping and things start happening. So I thought about you. I was like, man, because they building a podcast studio in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, maybe we can plan episode 50.
Right there, right?
Yeah, live and in person. You know what I'm saying? From the
How about
Black
this?
Wall Street.
For those who don't know, here's something Jamal and I have been really thinking about. Maybe y'all could hit us up and talk about help. With so many folks moving or reverse migrating from the north to the south, and really trying to figure out how we can all be more connected as we move throughout these lands. So figuring out how we can get us a big barbecue, a big, not just to eat, but also to connect, network, fellowship, and figure out how we can start to lean into the things that we need to in order to prepare this next generation of young people for the things that's to come. So hopefully it can be in a city or a state near one of you, because I know y'all out there, y'all got acres and acres of land. Maybe we can do it on y'all land or something.
Yeah, man. Invite us out. We ain't too good to come see you. You know what I'm saying? And it's all about leveling up. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Spotify can cut us in on that 100 million that they said that they was going to spend on underrepresented podcasts. I don't know, Rob. Maybe somebody out there, throw us a connection. You know what I mean? We got a lot to say, and I know that there's a lot of people that want to hear what we got to say.
Well, that's a fact. Listen, especially with the right platform. But I will say, regardless of where we are, y'all gonna get this word. just in case y'all thought it was a joke.
Right. And Rob gonna be in the corner looking at you like, I told you.
Oh
Oh man. Hey man, still a lot going on this week. A lot going on this week. We're gonna get into it. But shout out to this Black History Month. Shout out to historically Black colleges and universities. We,
Mm.
we talk about them frequently. Big shout out to Mom Duke. Got me a new T-shirt. Anybody who
Hey.
knows me knows I love socks, T-shirts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
And,
sneakers,
sneakers.
and sneakers, right? So, um, she got me this. She got me this Black History Month commemorative T-shirt for historically Black colleges and universities. And this is a big part of who we are is
Mm-hmm.
what we do for a living, right?
Mm.
It is not who we are, it's just a part of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And a big part of who we are because of the time that we spend doing what we do, right? And historically Black colleges and universities have done a yeoman's work, have lifted the heavy lift to
Mm-hmm.
help prepare the underserved, the underrepresented, Black and brown, and even poor non-Black and brown people to receive an education that is culturally and historically relevant and sensitive to who they are, to who we are, to the culture,
Okay.
especially when we were not allowed to
Mm-hmm.
attend, I would say, mainstream colleges and universities, right? Um, and they are some of the most under-resourced educational institutions proportionate to the level of success that they are able to produce.
Amen. Yep.
And just shoestring budget, right? But if you measured the success of HBCUs based on output,
Definitely.
it would be an incredible feat of educating young people who would ordinarily, historically, not have the same opportunities. And I remember, Rob, when I attended Morehouse College briefly, and I remember when I was on campus in the '90s, and it was my
Mm-hmm.
dream school. Got in and was
Mm.
able to be blessed to attend, right? Um, and I got on campus, and I was really learning the history, a deeper history of just the Atlanta University complex that at that
Mm.
time housed Morehouse, Spelman, Clark Atlanta University, and Morris Brown, right? And so Morris Brown, in particular, was a school that I didn't know as much about.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where I really understood the importance of HBCUs, right?
Okay. Break
Clark,
that down. Break it down.
look, Clark and Morehouse and Spelman
Mm-hmm.
have incredible, and all the HBCUs have incredible alumni portfolios and whatnot. But the administrator that was addressing us was saying how Morris Brown, in particular, went after a certain segment of the young pre-professional Black intelligentsia on purpose. Those that may not have wanted to go to school, and anybody out there in the Spider-Man
Sound
Marvel
like my
multiverse,
place.
you
Sound like
know,
a place I would have been.
yeah, anybody out there that you can correct me if I'm wrong, and this is not talking down on the mission, but um, they were talking about how if you measured Morris Brown College at that time, specifically on output, it outperformed a lot of schools that had more of a prestige and a larger brand. And then when I got to learn of the dozens, triple digit numbers of HBCUs present and past, and learn some of their histories, man, the same, Morris Brown and the AUC is not exclusive to that fact. Um, and this is particularly interesting to me as a formerly trained recruiter in corporate America. Man, there's more HBCUs that produce top notch talent outside of the big names like Howard and Hampton and Morehouse Spelman and Clark Atlanta and North Carolina A&T and so on and so forth, right? Man, there are colleges and universities that are regional and may not have the national notoriety that are just as important, just as solid. So, just a little monologue on their HBCUs, and everybody feels like some type of way if when they hear somebody who went to an HBCU talk about their experience. Nah, but check this out. If you didn't go to an HBCU, right? Like my man Rob, you still was a historically black person at a college or a university. So you brought that culture, you brought that experience with you. You just had a smaller circle and network on a campus that had a larger population of other folk, right? So don't, even though HBCUs have a particular experience and culture, don't sell yourself short. But I highly recommend HBCU. What you think, Rob?
No, that's a fact, bro. When you really the craziest thing about it, um, it's consistent with all the things that we're a part of. You know, so when you kind of look at it, selling oneself short, you find it all throughout our culture. And in some form or fashion, we don't even like to brag about certain things. Right. And I know I'm guilty of, I can be the biggest promoter of other individuals, sometimes even more than I can promote myself.
Right.
Right. So when we even think about the experience, me going to a PWI, you still kind of end up, depending on where you're from, yes, you're going to interact with so many different types of people, but you're still going to have a unit of people who look like you. Because no matter who and where you go, you're always looking for people who have similar experiences. Some things you don't want to have a conversation about. You don't want to have to explain. And I bring that piece up for this particular reason. We can't get caught up spending so much time trying to educate people on things they can find out on their own.
Oh my God.
Right? If you cared, and that, and here's, and
wait a minute.
I'll eat to that one.
We gotta breathe that in. You mean to tell me you couldn't find that? You couldn't do your own research on that one? I got it. I'm the authority on the context of this question that you asking me. But on the other hand, when you're under resourced, underrepresented, right? There's so much that you have to find out on your own. Man, go ahead, finish that point. I just had to stop you right there. I want to make sure that we put a highlighter on that
one. It's all good. So when you really process, that's one of the reasons that you'll always get certain HBCUs in certain cities to get more love, because people don't want to do the work to cultivate. That's the reason that you'll get our white brothers and sisters, Asian brothers and sisters, or those who may be a majority of a particular industry. So pay attention to why I say that to those who are listening. If it's IT or tech, you may have a number of Asian brothers and sisters who are in that industry heavily, right? Well into double digits, probably 20 plus or 30% or whatever the case may be. You don't find black and brown folks that time because people, they want it now, they want it yesterday, and they want it to have wings, and they want them to be legends when they walk into the door. And the biggest thing about corporate America and industrial complex, however we're going to categorize it, if it doesn't do what I need it to do today, I will leave it to someone else to make the investment. So my argument will always be, if you are big on making a change, if you switch up your banners on Google or online celebrating Black History Month and the accomplishments and the awesomeness of Black people, then how deep are you going to invest into these communities
Right.
that don't have it? Some might only have a dirt road, or they may not even have a school that has up-to-date textbooks.
Right.
But to prepare folks for tomorrow, how much are you going in?
Yes.
I'll eat to that one too.
Nah, man, you're exactly right, and this gives me um, a lot of pride to have the opportunity to be able to talk about it. Because um, even though you know there are arguments out there
Mhm.
um, that prescribe a a particular look at HBCUs that may have gone away from um, certain curriculums that made them most effective in
Mm.
their day to more of a generalized, uh, more controlled, more sponsored curriculum to prepare um, its alumni and constituents for the mainstream
Mm.
anyway. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, why go if I'm gonna get taught what I get taught at you know what I mean?
I
At
got one for you.
yeah, at a PWI.
I got one for you.
But this is it. But I'm gonna give you something else
Go
to
ahead.
think
Go ahead. Go
about,
ahead.
right? That is true. The curriculum has been compromised. The HBCUs have been the target of pacifying the masses of Black and brown folk in order to maintain civil obedience in the face of outright oppression, right?
Ooh.
However, when you get that many of us together in the cauldron of Black excellence and brown intelligentsia from all walks of life, we're talking about the most diverse pool of people on the face of the earth, all in the same place at the same time. Man, later for that curriculum, it's the ideas, it's the mindset, it's the if one person is seated with the right thought, it changes and can influence the trajectory and outcome of the whole environment. That's historically how we've been, and that's why HBCUs are so important, just like other facets of our community that I know a lot of you are, taking some time to reflect on in this Black History Month. What it means because Black history is just not Black history; it's American history, it's world history, right? And those contributions, like Rob said last week, are every day, not just this month. But what were you ready to say, Rob?
As somebody who did not go to an HBCU, excuse my ignorance if I am wrong, but as always, I'll speak what I believe may be true. Even as many of these schools become more diversified,
Right.
not more black or more brown, but more white or Asian, I hope and I pray that the school digs deeper into its blackness,
Mm,
because now you have a bigger charge at hand to, instead of just having folks who come to your school and be exposed to opportunities that were sent to those schools for black folks, now you have to make sure that you are educating them with the knowledge that you also wanted black folks to have, right? So it's not that you just teach American history from from the standpoint of those who won or who were winning the wars. You also have to teach it from the standpoint of the people who were also involved and the people who did the work, the people who got their hands dirty. There's nobody who should walk out of a school that is for the betterment of black professionals and not know the history of the folks the school was created for.
Yeah.
Right? That would be my piece at
Yeah.
all points in time, where those of us who went to PWIs is like, man, I can only imagine, the things that they're learning and how they getting all this knowledge from these professors.
Mm.
But if you go into the HBCU today and you're getting history, like we got at our PWI,
Right.
and what I mean by that, if you're a millennial or Gen X or above, and you watch Robin Hood when you was little, especially the cartoon, the hero in Robin Hood outside of Robin Hood was King Lionheart, right? And that's the Eurocentric way of showing you Lionheart, who was a part of the Crusades. Now, on the other side, if you were a Muslim, you looked at those folks who were a part of the Crusades, especially the first one, as murderers, killers, etc., etc., because they killed anyone that they came in contact with that was not from Europe was killed, regardless of what
Right.
they look, regardless of child, man, or woman. So depending on what side of history or where you are, one person is a hero to you and they're the devil to the other person.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? So I hope that as the people who've been here and taken note of all things that have happened, I hope we tell the true and real history in its totality and not just from those who paid to get the books made. I'll
That's
get to
right.
that.
And to that, recruiters out there who may listen to this podcast, there were at one point over 120 HBCUs, and there's still 101 of them left. So you get asked to recruit. Just keep that in mind. There's 101 HBCUs out there that's producing the talent that you need. And never mind the budget, right? Because right now we're in the virtual space. You can email some collateral, and even if you just get one, you, you did your job, right? So excellent. I'm glad we touched on that. Now, Rob, we're gonna hire, we're gonna employ, we're gonna contract Robert Felder, the coach, tonight. He looked like he's not ready, but he's ready. Don't let the like the old malt liquor ads from the 80s. Don't let the smooth taste fool you, right? You're on mute.
Was that Billy D in that commercial?
Man, I can't remember.
I think it was Billy D, man.
I know it was one of the malt liquor
He
commercials.
was mad smooth and the hair was in a slick back.
Yeah. Coke for the.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna get him no brand recognition right now because of what that meant to our community, but I like the slogan, right? Because it fits. So man, we got a lot going on, like we did last week, and we'll kind of end the conversation tonight, with a follow up on some of the topics that we went through last week, right? We talked about Brian Flores, quarterback of the head coach, excuse me, head coach of the Miami Dolphins. There's an update there. The Whoopi Goldberg saga, and then last but not least, what was the other one we talked about last week, Rob? Whoopi, it was Brian, and then it was the was it Joe Rogan? Was it Joe Rogan? Or was it somebody else? It was something else.
Joe Rogan happened after
Right.
the
So we got an update on Joe Rogan. We want to talk about that. Throw that around a little bit. You know what I mean? But for the edification of those that are part of the Level Up Past Corporate Trauma community, right? We put out a corporate trauma word of the day. Rob does a break free moment every other day, every day. Like, look, there's a bunch of content out here between us too. Um,
Mhm.
And we want to give some time tonight, right, to kind of expound on some of the content that we espouse on our other social media platforms, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the type to bring up the idea and to be direct and talk about provocative, controversial things with respect to what goes on in the workplace. Rob is the coach. Rob is the one that's gonna tell you he gonna give you some act right, like we used to say back from where I'm from. He gonna give you the right coaching advice, right? So I'm gonna throw some stuff out at Rob, and we gonna see where he takes us, man. Because
It's
it
all
never
gonna be
fails,
similar.
huh?
It's all gonna be similar.
I know,
Leave,
right,
leave, leave.
right. So Rob, there's a my last three posts, corporate trauma word of the day, right? Number one, right? There's a there's a scenario and a situation that a lot of professionals find themselves in from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
That is someone else's fire drill becoming your emergency,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
For those that may not understand what I mean, that means for whatever reason, for whatever the context is between you and other individuals in the workplace, it could be power dynamic, it could just be colleagues, it could be just the fact that you're a person who's a team player and is willing to help. What happens a lot of time is people make mistakes, right? Or things get missed, or stuff comes up at the last minute and it's urgent, it's important,
Mm-hmm.
but it may not be an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you're on the other end of that and you are solicited for your help, that urgency now becomes an emergency for you, especially if there's power dynamics in play. For example, I had a contentious relationship with a supervisor one time, and we were getting help with that, right? Um, so an opportunity presented itself where this particular person needed me to step in and assist. And this, just to be detailed, was gathering a lot of collateral and needing it to be shipped to where the my supervisor was headed. They couldn't get back to the office to grab it. They needed it to be packaged and shipped. Not only did they need it to be packaged and shipped, they was like, the only collateral we have is old, so I need you to go to the print department and print a bunch of labels and then slap the label to cover up the part that we need to update. How many pieces of collateral? We talking hundreds. So much so that my colleagues around me felt bad and shipped it, got it done, got to the post office, got the box on the scale. The post office attendant said, "Hey, you missed the 4 o'clock or the five o'clock pickup. So to get it to where you needed to go, it's gonna cost you this,
Mm-hmm.
or it's gonna cost you this,
Mm-hmm.
or if you really serious about this getting to where you need it to be at a certain time, it's gonna cost you this much, right?" So I was like, okay, not my budget. I did my job. Let me call my supervisor to see. All right, so it's gonna cost you this. It's gonna cost you that. It's gonna cost you this, depending on how fast you wanted to
How
get there,
fast you want it? Yep. How fast you want it?
how fast you want it. But it's done. The job's done. Collateral's packed, collated, updated, box taped, addressed. We ready. We good. I'm like, yo, I'm about to get mad cool points for this, Rob. All
Bonus.
I heard, all I heard on the other end was, that's unacceptable. That's outside of the budget for this type of expenditure. When I asked you to do it, I really needed you to get it done by a certain time. You dropped the ball. You let me down. I don't. I'm looking at my phone like, yo, this has got to be a practical joke. This can't be real. This cannot be real.
See.
So I said something to the effect, you know what? Anything other than thank you is unacceptable. So I'm gonna end this conversation right here. And it was in that moment that I realized that
You
their
were getting
fire
fired.
drill will never be my emergency ever again. And now I'm acutely aware of fire drills in emergencies and the difference and how I treat people in the workplace, right? Because you never know what you might need from the next person as far as assistance and help,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm born a team player, but I learned a lot about being a team player in that moment. Fire drills and emergencies, Rob. What you think? If you was coaching me through that moment, what would you say?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is when we're talking about leadership and we're talking about team players, if you drop the ball on time, not you, Jamal, but the supervisor, she's supposed to be in there. She or he should have been in there getting paper cuts with you as you pack the packages. Because the one thing about all people, you can complain, you can be upset, but you respect people who get dirty with you. You can respect people who get dirty with you. And because this person mismanaged their time and they had someone who more or less answered to them, they felt as if this was the best way to get both jobs done. The one that she dropped the ball on, or he dropped the ball on,
Right.
and then the one that was a priority for that person on this particular day. So you create the fire drill, you create something that's very, very, you create an emergency situation, and then you want someone else to save you,
Mm,
but you don't keep fighting with them, right? It's sort of like you get the person on the respirator, or you get the little pads that's supposed to shock the person's body back, but
right.
the person doesn't want their heart. Like they like, nah, I ain't gonna let my heart pump though. I ain't gonna let my heart beat though, right? Because nope, nope, nope. They got their heart in their hand. I'm not letting it be. Well, okay, then die, sucker, die. Right now, for you, the biggest piece is, even when it's a fire drill, something that we usually don't do, we don't ask any questions. We just expect that everything is good. And then we also don't give feedback beforehand. So when this person comes to you and says, hey, need you to get this done, need you to do X, Y, Z. And you're like, all right, okay.
I need you to, what do you have planned? Well, this is what I got on my schedule today. I need you to drop that. All right, I'll drop it. But what do you need done? And and I knew, and to your point, I knew something was, I should have known something was going to happen, because it was like, all right, she was like, well, damn,
my bad.
They was like, they was like,
bragging them.
They was like, don't expect extensions on anything else. I just need to know if you can get this done if you dropped everything. I'm like, all right. I mean, it's a fact. I can still get this other stuff done, but why would that even be a a position that you had to make with me?
Mm-hmm.
You need my help or what?
Mm-hmm. But now, granted, the real the coachable moment, because ultimately, once you take that project on, you also have to be aware of what the parameters are and the rules of engagement are. So once you agree, you jumped into the fire drill as well.
Right.
Now, I mean, you have to take ownership of the piece that you failed on, because ultimately it's like, hey, what I could have done is at 2:00, I'm gonna hit her up and say, hey, yeah, I think we behind by like 30. Like I may need your help for you to come down here for us to be able to get this done and drive it over to the post office. Right? Because ultimately asking for help is the one thing that probably would have changed it, or at least making this person aware that you may fall short.
Right.
then ultimately, if it does fall short, it falls back on her, not her being able to turn around and say, hey, man, I gave this thing to Jamal. Man, this dude ain't even hit he didn't get it out in time. That's why you didn't get it. I apologize. You see what I'm saying? So you end up falling under the boat, under the car, and under the bus because she set you up and you wasn't thinking that the best way for me not to get ran over is to make sure that I keep her included and keep her updated on what we got going on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Good coaching. Cal, my man Cal said you have to be willing to get your hands dirty at the same time. Whoever is with you in the fight needs to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
Such a fact. Such a fact.
That
right?
is.
You know, and then at the end of the day, man, it's just something about appreciation, value, and gratitude, man.
But that's also about love, though. Right?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
let's be honest. His name was Kyle.
Cal, yep.
When you have love for someone on your team, when you love and you respect them,
Right.
no matter what your title is, I guess maybe it comes down to the type of person you are.
Right.
When you send them to do the dirty job, you don't just send them to put the overalls on. You help them zip theirs and you ask them to zip yours, and y'all get funky together.
Right.
Right? Because ultimately, I just can't imagine I let you go and not get and that's just it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're on the same team. You fell, I fell.
Right.
But if we're gonna fail together. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And we're gonna laugh about it. And then be like, you know what? We're not gonna make that mistake again.
And we've done that plenty of times. You
What?
and I.
Oh.
You've saved me plenty of times. I was like, man, they about to get me, well. Like,
Vice.
man, I didn't drop the ball. Jamal, like, nah. Look, I got you. I'm gonna take some of the heat, which I'm like, nah, you ain't gotta take it. Nah. You good, man. You my brother. That's one of those situations where you're learning in the marketplace, you're learning in the corporate setting that people can still have love for you and not be afraid that they're not going to be able to feed their kids. That's what you get when people are free. When people are free, they like, listen, nah, man, we good. Don't even worry about it. We'll jump. We'll get them together. We either winning or we gonna learn a lesson together. And that's the reality. And everybody's not like that. A lot of folks are scared and frightened of the idea that whoever this person is who writes the checks or who can possibly fire you, they'll do just that.
Right. That's corporate trauma. You're not.
It is.
You making trauma informed decisions because you are afraid of making a mistake, which people make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Next scenario, Rob. What they want versus what they ask you for. Now, this is high level for me. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you. You know, maybe those that are out there in the corporate trauma podcast community, right? Maybe you've already leveled up. Maybe you came to the game already leveled up. And I know that there's individuals out there with the that have mastered the art of discernment early on. However, there's a number of us out there that it takes falling down and getting up, right?
Yep.
For you to really understand the difference between what your stakeholders want and what your stakeholders are asking you for, right?
Correct.
And stakeholders obviously can be leadership, could be your colleagues, could be your clients, it could be
your wife.
Stakeholder, your children, stakeholder.
It could.
Right.
Yep.
But your stakeholder could be asking you for results. Clear.
Yeah.
I need effective results in this area. But what they really may want, that's what they're asking you for. But I find out a lot of times what they really may want is just a story to tell. Right. I was able to get Jamal to send me 3,000 widgets
Mm-hmm.
at the last minute. Those results may not be worth anything one way or the other, but the fact that this person can tell that story
Yeah.
may be all that it is. It would the whole exercise was over,
Mm-hmm.
and we can build that scenario out in a lot of different ways. Even from a power dynamic, from lateral
Yeah.
equality with other colleagues,
Yep.
and then from your client base. But what would you say to that? What they want versus what they ask you for.
You can see and feel those things coming a mile away if you pay attention to the person and not the title,
Mm,
right? The person, sort of like when you play basketball, they tell you to watch the person's hips. Can't go nowhere without your hips,
right.
right? You can't go nowhere else without, you can't go nowhere. Your feet could shake me, your hands could do something, your head could do something, but your hips you can't leave without. When we're at work, sometimes we don't slow down enough to observe who the person is without the title, without the big desk, without the fancy office, right? So for me, I'm always paying attention to cues. I'm watching how people move their head when they talk. I'm watching like what makes them smile. Like I really pay attention to what makes people tick, because for me, I want to see the nuances. Like I want to see the small differences. So when they do something, I can tell, is it out of spite?
Mm,
Hey, do they want to hurt me?
mm,
You know, are they indifferent to what happens to me? Hey, I'm gonna get this to him. If he drowned, he drowned. If he dies, he dies. Right? Or they just kind of ignorant to what the impact of what they ask me to do will be on me. Like, what's the impact on Rob? They don't know. All they know is they're gonna give me the task and just expect that I'll get it done. And cool, got it. Just get the job done. All right, great. So for me, I'm always trying to pay attention. So for me, when it comes down to coaching and it comes down to interacting with people, I won't lie to you. I'm cool to get in the mix and tell people that I was dumb and hey, that person did you wrong, that person did this. But I'm also even more quicker to say to folks, how could you have taken a step back from that situation and done this differently? What's the piece that you control? Because ultimately that's where the power is. The power is in your movements and your actions, and they control theirs.
right. Right. Powerful. Kelsey, you got to dance the dance, but not lose yourself in the mix.
Man, folks be losing themselves in the mix all day.
Man, tripped
They
up.
they be losing it. They be out there. I'm about to dance. I'm about to dance, and then they be out here mixing cakes. You know.
And it's an interesting dance, right? Because a lot of people lead through anxiety,
Yeah.
right? And then if you got two anxious people, one on one side, one on the other, now you like, man, what does this person really want?
Mm-hmm.
What they
Mm-hmm.
asking me for? I gave them what they asked for last time, and that's not what they wanted,
True.
right? And now and now I'm angry. No, no, no.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you asked me for. You know what I'm saying? But that's not what you. This is what you asked me for,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I didn't give you that.
Listen, man. You can't. All I want, and so this is something that even for the folks who are who do diversity work, do coaching work, do work in the space of people, regardless. If you want change, it has to be, let's figure out what the rules of engagement will be for all people. What's the culture of the organization? What's the culture of the department? Like what are the things that are non-negotiable?
Right.
So even if somebody pops up and they do something racist, or they do something that's harmful or sexist or whatever the case may be, you're not particularly firing them because of X. You're
Right.
firing them because they're not living up to the standards that all of us agreed to live up to.
That's right.
There's no hiding.
Right.
It's for somehow there's always nuances. There's always a dance, to use Kyle's phrase. There's
Right.
always a dance that people can do when it comes down to disrespecting the space of other people. And when I say space, I'm talking about mental, physical, and emotional. When people come down to disrespecting space, instantly they can say, hey, well, I didn't know. I didn't know. Smartest joker in doggone company. Mad common sense. Doing all like well connected. Sort of like, they pull a Joe Rogan.
Mm.
Right? Well,
Yeah, Joe.
come on, man. What are we talking about? Nah, well, it's not acceptable.
It's not acceptable at all, for real.
Mm-hmm.
Not acceptable at all. And you know what? And I didn't realize until now, kind of these three scenarios that I have you coaching us on tonight, kind of lead the first two leads up into the third one, right? This is a scenario that happens all the time, but it never fails as I continue to push this corporate trauma thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm like, why don't more people talk about this? Like it's in the movies, it's in TV shows, but nobody's really talking about. Like there's no training on it, right? And that is what to do if you get passed over for a promotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So think about it, even in context of what we've been talking about tonight.
Mm-hmm.
You got caught up, somebody else's fire drill has now become your emergency. You handle that,
Mm-hmm.
right? You started to discern the difference between what they want and what they're asking for. You fell a couple times, but now you own it.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time. Now it's promotion time.
Ooh, money, 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 money.
And look, y'all,
money.
So, and promotion doesn't necessarily have to be a competitive one with other candidates. It could just be you getting moved up because of the annual review. You go from manager to senior manager. You go from vice president to senior, but whatever it is, right? And it could just be a pay band increase, or you could be in a competitive process where you are actually interviewing and being measured, against a pool of people, right? And I'm not talking about the process where, right, I might get it. It's a stretch. I know I can do the job. I can grow in the position. I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring because I have potential and I have confidence that if I'm awarded the opportunity to fail, right? If I get that, I'm a learn. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go for this. I'm not talking about them situations. I'm talking about where you already figured it out.
It's yours. To quote the great Drake.
Like there's nothing on the books.
Yeah.
There's nothing official that you have to be concerned or not confident about. Right? Meaning somebody's like nobody's better than you. It may just be preferred or as good. And these things happen, right? You just because you're qualified and you're ready and you can do it doesn't mean you're going to do it. But or that you're gonna get promoted. But the thing I want to focus on is, all right, what does it mean if this does happen to you and you do not get the promotion? This is in terms of being passed over. Like, yo, it was between Jamoul and Rob. We could only choose one.
Yeah.
We chose Rob, right?
Yep.
What does that say
about Jamoul? Yep.
About Jamoul.
Correct.
Right. And so, what I posted is a lot of people take it personal. Right. I might have did this, or they don't like me, or it was, this is unfair. Like you're internalizing, you're taking it personal. My advice was make it personal. Ask yourself these objective questions. All right. How did I get here? If I didn't get chose, what are the variables that led up to this? Right.
Good point.
And what does this mean for my future in the organization.
Great second point.
You know what I'm saying? So, Rob,
Yep.
what you got? Passed over. Not you got beat fair and square, passed over.
Yo, look, you didn't have me say yo. I had to think. Well, y'all know there's a common theme with me, and I'm not switching it up today. He said the smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Well, here's the craziest thing about it. Is there still more left for you there?
Mm,
Right? Because here's the question that I ask. I wasn't chosen. Cool, got it.
that's fine.
But what did you expect the ramifications would be if I wasn't?
Mm,
Right? So for me, if you don't pick me, you should already have a game plan for how we shall interact. Don't just not pick me and tell me, man, figure out, you'll be all right. I want you to give me some thoughtful information. I want you to help me understand how I can get to this next level, what stopped me this time, and then how I can go even further than that.
mm,
Now, if you don't give me that, I'll assume, and probably rightfully so, that you're not concerned about how I view it. Right? It's sort of like that. You're on the football team. Is it because it's more of a football thing than a basketball thing, right? You're on the football team, and they're like, well, you look, all right, this person is up next. And some things it's just a matter of coaching. Now, do they have the time? Now, see, there's another thing. See, now I'm answering questions for the coach or for the person who's in charge.
right.
Maybe they feel like it's a developmental thing. Oh, well, we don't have the time to develop them,
Right.
right? Then ultimately, we're supposed to be in this together, right? If I'm not developed and I didn't know until just now, then who dropped the ball?
Right. Me or you?
Me or you? So you got to do the person has to do a great job. And here's a pushback that I would also say. Be aware if all the folks who look like you, when they don't get promoted, or when they do get promoted, they always have to go and get some type of training. And when their other counterparts do not.
Mm,
If I get, oh, well, hey, we want you to go and do this developmental course or go through this training. We're going to set you up with this leadership coach or whatever the case may be. And your other counterparts do
great.
not, which is cool.
But
But
why?
it has to be the standard though.
Right. Right.
Right. It has to be the rule.
Right.
Hey, everybody that's about to get to this next level has to be this. Now, some people who are listening to be like, oh, Rob, it's not always like that, just because. No. How about this? That's the standard that I have.
Right.
You treat someone else different, and it has nothing to do with our work, but how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm gonna feel like I have to move a certain way within the power that I hold, which is I'm about this piece, sucker.
You know what I'm saying? Because and you bring up a great point, man. Because what I've experienced, and I've even internalized it and repeated it, right? Is people often are viewed as risk, right? Risky.
Yep.
Yeah, we give them this, but it's a risk involved. So put them through this training, right? And that's where the standard is broken, right? So that's another question. Why am I viewed a risk? And promotions, this is the telltale sign. If you've been working somewhere for a while and you interview for an internal promotion, right? And that's what a promotion is. It's an internal hire, right?
Yep.
And the team, even if they don't, but especially if the team or the individual you have that has screened you and interviewed you for the promotion, and you already have a reputation and a brand at your organization, and you interview in person, and they notify you by email. Hold on. Hey, like Kevin Hart said in 40-year-old version, I don't understand the words that you're saying, and because I don't, I'm gonna take them as disrespect. Watch
Right.
your mouth. Right. Listen, look, that's a red flag. You mean to tell me you know me? This is an internal promotion. I gotta show up here tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you let me know with an email?
We
Wait a
got issues.
minute.
We got issues.
We got issues, man. All right, now okay, I see what y'all doing.
So we talking about. So you know what? As you're talking, you know what comes to mind? The idea of the Rooney Rule,
Yes. Brian
right?
Flores.
You know what's crazy? And I know some folks are gonna tell me I'm crazy for this one, but we should get rid of it, right? Because in some form of fashion, we're not. I'm not going to say you have to at least hire someone. I mean, you at least have to interview someone who is a person of color, which is really saying, hey, you at least need to have folks feel like they got a shot, a long shot, a puncher's chance, right? Not that I can outbox you, but hey, at least one of y'all gonna get an interview. But we already know who we want,
Mm-hmm.
which to me is cool. But just understand there's consequences for how you move.
Right.
In sheltering people, you know what I mean? It doesn't work. Especially in I would just say this last piece. When 90 plus percent of the people who work off the field don't look like the folks on the field, how do you really expect for them to hire someone that doesn't look like them?
Mm-hmm.
When you really think about it, it's mostly only black folks who will hire other people because we be like, you know what? I just want the best person. Everybody else be like, give me my person. Give me the person who's gonna make me feel comfortable. And that may not be true all the time, but when we're talking about changing up this complex and this system that we work within, if folks aren't putting structure in place, if they're not putting rules of engagement in place or across the board, then they're not serious. And
And,
why all the black guys except why all the black guys always get the worst jobs?
and
There we go.
the people who have been flagrant to justify such thing as a Rooney Rule came up. I don't know if they came up with it, but they sanctioned it. So when you sanction your own correction,
Yeah.
you can always weaponize it and turn it into something that it wasn't supposed to be. I
This
mean,
is America.
right? It's like
This is America.
when I used to get corporal punishment, go outside and get your own switch, right?
No.
I gotta
I
go
remember
outside.
that.
If I gotta go outside and get my own switch off the tree, and some of y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Guess the one I'm gonna try to get the one that I think that's gonna hurt the least. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Cal said the fact that there is such a rule is a problem within itself because you know it, and so do I, and that's it. Just to check a box to save face and say, look, we interviewed such and such a minority person.
Mhm.
I mean, beautifully stated, right? Because and at the end of the day, it don't fix nothing.
It
That's
doesn't.
what, and we knew that. We already knew that.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
already knew that because the math, it did like one of the radio personalities I listened to on the radio said the math ain't mathing, right? It just not adding up. It doesn't make sense, and it's not going to fix anything.
But it's not supposed to.
Exactly. It wasn't meant. It wasn't meant to fix anything. This is just all right. This is a negotiation chip.
Man, it's our house.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, sometimes we really got to think about it like that.
Right.
Folks don't look at this as a business. They're not looking at it as a corporation. They're not looking at it as the government. They're looking at it the same way that you view your home.
Right.
This is my house, right? Then I want y'all to imagine Martin Lawrence, Pam in the house, Cole in the house, Tommy in the house, Bro Man from the 5th floor in the house,
yeah,
Jerome in the house,
5th floor.
A couple of other dudes and females. Martin is just like the owners of the team. That's his house. And he will kick you out.
He'll kick you out.
Because it's his house.
Straight
no
like
matter
that.
what rules he give you, no matter when he call you in, no matter if he say, hey, cool, you can rock with me, in their mind, and I guess ultimately it's true, it's their league, not yours.
And that's it at the end of the day.
Right? And the rules of engagement. The rules of engagement are, if you get hired at a sucky team, we want to lose a little bit until we get the right quarterback. And when we get this game time quarterback, you're gone.
Gone.
Because now you've done your job. And that's why I guarantee when you look at the records, a lot of times you'll see some stuff happen.
Mm-hmm. They hired some of these folks just to keep the locker room from going crazy.
That's it.
That's it. Dope point. And while we wrap up and follow up on some of the things that we talked about at the top of the show, Ben, I want to do something different. If there's anybody out there listening, if you got something to say and putting it in the chat is not enough, put your email address in the chat and I'll send you the link so we can throw you in the studio and you can make your comments live and direct. You don't have to, just an offer I'm offering, right? Rob looking at me like I'm crazy. But yeah, we want to feel, because corporate trauma belongs.
This is our league. This is our league. This is our league.
We do what we want. We do what we want.
You're not welcome here. I'm telling you, that's really what this is. Yeah, that's really what it is.
That's what it is. We do what we want. But yo, you mentioned Joe Rogan, right? Joe Rogan has indiscriminately proven that he feels comfortable using the N-word on his podcast, and has, there's empirical data out there that says that is true. Certain artists on Spotify in particular, this is what I read and this is what I heard on major news outlets. So this is not Jamal speaking. That one artist in particular came out that news stories and exposés was done. India Irie said, pull all my music off Spotify if y'all don't do something about Joe Rogan.
That's what she said? I thought she said she
in a nutshell, y'all correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know. I thought she said she didn't care. I
stand to be correct. I think that's what she said recently. But that at least started the conversation. Spotify started to pull shows. Somebody put an N-word Joe Rogan mixtape together. He watched it. He responded to it and apologized and said it was disgusting. But at the end of the day, he's keeping his $100 million deal.
Well,
Rob, wait, Rob. He's keeping that $100 million deal because he's the number one podcaster in the world. Meanwhile, Whoopi, this is what we're really following up on from last week. Meanwhile, with all due respect, Whoopi is still suspended from The View.
But that makes sense, though.
It makes perfect sense.
Well, let's be honest. And
Oh.
I don't know who's watching, but I'm gonna say it like this, and it's gonna maybe it'll hurt on both ends.
Mhm.
When you're the consumer, you only can stand outside and yell and scream and say we not going to buy anymore.
Right.
And then it's on the folks who are in charge to adjust.
Right.
That's the situation with Joe Rogan using the N word.
Right. And why would and I know it's this argument out there. You know, we hear black people say it all the time in the music and whatnot. Why can't we say it? You know,
I'm gonna get to that.
but why would you want to say it? Right? Like, why would you want to say it? Because it's not. It's the word. The word exists because the condition exists. But the word in and of itself has a meaning. It has an etymology, right? But it's the actions that came after the usage of the word that gives the word the negative connotation and energy that it still hold fast to today. So with that history, the history is best qualified to reward the researcher. With that history, why would you want to say it? Right?
But that's a common sense question though.
Yeah, it is a common sense question.
And when
I
you
give
don't
people
have
credit.
and when you don't have common, like when you don't have things in common with people, you know, you will drive yourself crazy trying to figure out how to get the square in the circle hole.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm gonna just finish this point from earlier. Whoopi Goldberg, she talks about the owners. Joe Rogan, Whoopi Goldberg offended owners. Joe Rogan offended customers.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
When you offend the owners, you get suspended.
Right.
You can almost get fired.
Right.
When you offend the customers, that's when apologies come out.
Right. And
Because
Dave Chappelle said it the best, right? He said something that was considered homophobic, right? He got pulled into the office.
Yeah.
And it was like, Dave, you can't say that. And he was like, okay, cool. You know, my bad. And then he said it occurred to him and he turned around and said, well, why is it that I can use the N-word indiscriminately? And the person he was talking to, because Dave, you're not a part of the LGBTQ community. He said, well, I'm not an N-word either, right? And so there lies your point, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the Joe Rogan, Whoopi Goldberg dichotomy, right? Owners versus customers. Now we also talked about last week, Brian Flores. Update on that: the Miami Dolphins hired his replacement, who is an individual, right, that identifies as a person of color, right? And we take nothing away from how anybody identifies, right? Do you? However, I can't even do this stuff with a straight face no more.
I haven't watched them. I haven't watched it. Like,
however, right, his replacement. Let's just put it like this, and I'm gonna be very honest in this point, right? People of color, you know, can produce. And Rob, you said it more than one time on this podcast. Can produce all colors of the rainbow, right? You know, we could be light bright, dang near white, or we could be black as the ace of spade. So this gentleman identifies as a person of color, but to the uneducated eye, you would not know based on a lot of the opinions of people who have spoken out in reference to his hiring and replacing Mr. Flores. So that's the update on the Brian Flores Miami Dolphins head coaching dilemma from last week. And then last but not least is Ted Cruz.
I'm not a fan of that guy. Like, I'm not. I'm just not. Anytime I see, my goodness.
I mean, I haven't seen anything else about that story. Him, you know, telling black women how to feel about a black woman or several black women being considered for the highest court judgeship in the land, and arguably in the world. Um, so we'll see how those proceedings continue to progress.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see anything in the chat. Anybody wasn't brave enough to put their email address in the comments section. Maybe we'll get them next time. But yeah, if you're listening to the podcast and you have a burning thought that you want to share, we'll be willing to hear you out. If you talk too crazy, just understand I can mute you as quick as I unmuted you, right? And allowed you into the studio. But still,
I almost forgot. I just want to make sure I say this.
Talk to me.
In reference to the N-word. Folks allow their idea of, even though they don't claim that they have it, their privilege screams through when they want to use the N-word, right? I'm not concerned who you want to talk to when you use it, but the difference is when you come outside and you interact with other people and you know it's controversial, you have no idea of what person is comfortable with you using it around them or even toward them. Then at some point in time, you have to realize if in your circle, that's how y'all move, then that's how y'all move. But because your friends who look like me gave you the okay, they didn't give you the okay to punch me upside the head.
No.
Right? With your words or with your fists. So the idea that because black men and women use it in a rap song, I should be able to use it. Well, how about this? If I'm driving down the street and I get pulled over by the cop, I should be able to argue and curse the cop out like you without getting shot. But that's not the case.
Not the case.
Because apples are not apples in America. Apples are not apples in the world for black folks. What you do, in many cases, I can't do. And this is the one situation where you're like, man, I want to be able to call you a nigga. Why can't I call you a nigga? What you mean? Why can't I? But you could call each other. Well, I want to be in. But in this case, the one time in your life, you are hearing no, and you don't like it. And there's enough slack that you'll get that you can't escape the consequences. And that is frustrating for you.
And that's just a little slice of justice.
So, Joe, this is why I tell folks, I do not argue for people who are called racist, even if I know them or they're my friends. You know why? Because you can be my brother tonight and you can go somewhere else and do some racist nonsense to someone else. And I refuse to sit up here and argue for someone when I know that can be true. Now, if you ask me, hey, is he a nice guy? Yeah. Is he this? Yeah. Is he racist? Not to me. But what he might have done to them could be as racist as it was 60 years ago or 100 years ago. So don't confuse my friendship. My friendship does not vouch for your treatment of other black and brown people. We got to get to that point. Your friendship does not give you a card to get out of jail. No, because I don't have no get out of jail free cards.
Yeah, and we can argue, as people do all day long, whether or not the usage of the N-word means you're racist. We can argue that, right? But what we cannot argue is that all those that are racist use the N-word.
Boom. You guys, all right, I'm done. I'm
done. All right.
I'm done. Remember that. Say it one more time, though. Say it one more time.
I don't know if I can put it like that together again. We got to get a rewind button out here.
You want me to say it? Because I go ahead.
Go ahead.
All people who use the N word may not be racist, but all racist people
You see
use
it
the N
word.
word.
Yo, this is the Level Up Past Corporate Trauma podcast where we talk
Yes.
about all things corporate trauma and how to get up out of it. Tonight we talked about other people's fire drills being your emergency, knowing the difference between what people ask for and what they want, and how to feel, what to do, and what's your reaction if you get passed over for a promotion. Not lose in a competitive process where it was not something you was totally your confidence was equal or less than your uncertainty. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, yo, this is mine to lose, and I lost it. You know why, right? And Rob gave us some salient points and some great coaching on that, and we followed up tonight with few points that we hit from last week. Ted Cruz, the Whoopi Goldberg situation, which another more recent current event creates a dichotomy with Joe Rogan in the same similar context. Uh, but we know there's a difference between making the customers mad and making the owners mad, right?
Remember that.
And that's the difference. And then the usage of the N word, right? Why? Why are we even having this conversation? And then
Privilege.
also the Brian Flores, Miami Dolphins head coaching dilemma in his pending lawsuit. So thank y'all for coming and listening. And last but what we talked about first was the importance of historically black colleges and universities, the whole of the corporate industrial complex by virtue of the job, the sheer yeoman's heavy lift of preparing the underrepresented, under-resourced, underserved populations of black and brown folks, right, for the workforce through higher education. The HBCUs are unquestionably some of the best, if not the best, core group of institutions of higher learning out there because of the input in contrast to the actual output. So another great episode. We hope you enjoyed it, and come back next week where we plan to hit this topic of corporate trauma again. And remember, corporate trauma is a sneaky passive trauma that will creep up on you. And when it does,
It is time to level up.
till we see you again.
Peace.
Peace.